decades.
If you
right?
stick to the
U.S.
official
government
tourist
line was
path
basically
in Egypt, you see the grand
supernatural
monuments,
stuff,
the
psychic
pharaohs,
powers,
the
telepathy,
history laid out
seeing
quite
things
clearly.
far away with your mind, the standard narrative, pure
Exactly.
fantasy. That's what they
But
told
step
everyone.
away
Yeah,
from
that
the
was the public
guidance,
face.
away from the
Complete skepticism.
and you start hearing
But,
whispers.
while that was the
The
official story,
persistent,
behind
strange
closed doors,
whispers about an
something,
artifact that,
something
well,
much
it
stranger
just
was
shouldn't
apparently
exist.
going on. Something found out in the
Deep
desert
inside
dust,
the
supposedly.
intelligence
Yeah,
community.
something that supposedly
it's a really
survived
interesting
millennia
contrast, isn't it?
and seems
Publicly,
to
it's all
challenge,
scientific
everything we
dismissal.
think we
Privately,
know about
the
human
Pentagon, the
history.
And that
CIA,
artifact is what we're diving
they're
into
clearly
today.
wrestling with something very
legendary
different. These
giant
fantasies
Egyptian
suddenly
finger.
become
It's a claim
a
cell
serious
out
strategic
there.
issue.
Physically,
Exactly.
it really forces
And that
you to look
worry,
at
that
line
sort of
between
creeping fear about
solid
psychic warfare,
archaeology
it leads to
and
one of
maybe
the
something
honestly
more like
most
fringe
bizarre
mythology.
and top secret projects
So our
of the
mission
whole
here is
Cold
to
War.
sift through the
Project
sources we
Sunscreen.
have on this.
I mean,
And
just
it's a
picture
mixed
it.
bag.
An
You've got
actual
these
government
blurry
project
photos,
trying to
one main
weaponize the human
testimony,
mind.
and then a whole
Funded
lot
off
of
the books.
conspiracy
Totally
theories
secret.
layered on
And
top.
officially, the
We
cover
want to pull
story, or
apart
maybe the initial
what
idea,
might
was
be verifiable,
remote viewing.
what seems like pure
This
folklore, and maybe
supposed
understand why
ability
this
for
image,
trained
this
people to
specific
just
relic has grabbed
perceive
people's imaginations
distant places,
so fiercely.
secret enemy bases,
And
maybe even
let's
peek
just
into the
state
future.
the core claim
all
right
just
up front,
using
because
their
it's
minds.
wild.
And we should be
We're
clear,
looking
this
at an
wasn't
account
some like
of a
side
mummified
hobby.
finger
It wasn't just a
measuring
few folks
38
messing around.
centimeters.
Which is about
This was a
15 inches
strategic
long.
move.
15
a
inches.
direct
Yeah.
response to
And
what
that
they thought the
immediately
Soviets
sets
were
the
doing.
stage, doesn't it?
They were
A finger
urgently
that
trying to
big
get an
implies
edge
a
in
person
completely new
or something
kind of,
like a
well,
person.
battlefield.
And that's what we're doing today. We're going to peel back those layers
12,
of secrecy,
maybe 16 feet
really
tall.
It's
deep dive
huge.
into
So
Project
the big question
Sunstreak
becomes,
and the
is
kind
this
of wild
actual
conspiracy
proof of
theories that are
ancient
still swirling
giants?
around.
Or
Yeah,
is it
because
just
the story
maybe a
goes
really
way beyond
compelling
just
bit of
psychic
folklore
spying.
Oh,
or even
absolutely.
disinformation
It might
that
have
came
cracked
out of
open the
Egypt?
door
Let's start
to
where the story
well,
starts,
alien
because the
contact,
origin
maybe
tale
even
is,
some
well,
sources suggest
pretty much everything
interdimensional
here.
conflict.
Okay, so let's
It gets
unpack
pretty
that.
out there.
This
It
story
really
doesn't
does.
come
So we're
from
gonna
some
look at where it
official
came from, the
university
really
dig site,
unsettling
nothing
things
like
that viewers
that.
No,
reported
definitely
seeing.
not.
It traces back to
the,
1988,
weird
and a
overlaps with
Swiss
old occult
explorer,
stuff,
kind of an
and
alternative
these
history
incredible claims
researcher
about
named Gregor
contacting
Spörri.
Right, Spörri, the
Hmm.
unknown.
His account
So yeah,
is really
settling,
the bedrock
This is
for
where
this whole
things
thing.
get mostly shared
So where
through
did Sunstreak
alternative
even
media
come
channels
from?
over the years.
He
It
claims
really
he was
kicks
led to
off
this
back
private
in the
home,
early
met an
70s.
old
There was
man,
this sort of
described vaguely as a
quiet
former
panic
Tomb Raider
brewing
from a long line
in
of,
the
well, Tomb
intelligence
Raiders.
world during the Cold War. A grave
Right,
robber family,
word got out
essentially.
that the
And
Soviets
Spörri
were
says he
pouring
paid
serious
apparently
money and effort into
quite a lot of
parapsychology.
money
And not just
A
dabbling.
hefty
We're
sum,
talking
is how he put
state-sponsored
it,
experiments,
just to get a look at
telepathy,
this thing the
moving
old man had
objects
hidden
with the
away.
mind, psychokinesis,
Overcoming
and crucially,
intense secrecy,
remote viewing.
supposedly.
Yeah, and
with
when
cash.
U.S.
And the
intelligence
description
picked up
he
on
gives,
this,
it's
alarms went
vivid.
off. A
big
massive,
time. And the
dark,
Pentagon especially.
shriveled
You can imagine the
finger
fear, right?
wrapped
What if
in
this stuff is
old,
real?
decaying
Even if it only
linen.
gives a small
Leathery
advantage.
brown skin,
Exactly.
he
The
said.
U.S. could be completely
nail,
blindsided in
this
a
huge
conflict
nail,
that doesn't
is still
use
intact,
bombs or spies
Almost
in the
claw-like
traditional
in
sense.
appearance. So this
The whole
perceived
setup,
threat,
the way
this
the
potential
sources frame
psychic
it, wasn't
gap,
just about
it leads
seeing the
directly
finger,
to the
but
CIA's starting
conditions under
Project
which you saw
Stargate.
it,
Yeah,
which
and
was
that's
kind
what
of the
gets
umbrella
interesting,
program.
or
And under
maybe
Stargate, you get
suspicious,
these
depending on your view.
sub-projects.
It's
Project
almost perfectly
Sunstreak
set
was
up
one of
for a
them,
cover-up
run by
story
the
later
Defense
on.
Intelligence
How so?
Agency,
Well,
the
Spurrier was allowed to
DIA,
take
mostly
photos,
through the
which
1980s.
conveniently are the only images
So
we
Sunstreak
supposedly
gets
have.
going,
Right.
but the old man
And on
absolutely
paper,
refused to let him take any samples.
Its job
No
sounds
scrapings for carbon
well,
dating, no
almost
tissue for
straightforward
DNA,
for that world.
nothing.
Which is
Recruit
exactly what
people,
you'd need for
train them as
verification.
remote
Exactly.
viewers,
And then
Mhm.
get them
final
to project
piece.
their
Spurrier claims
consciousness.
he tried to go back
basically,
later
and
maybe
spy
buy
on
it, maybe
Soviet
just get another
facilities.
look, gather
Gone.
intel.
Standard
man, the
espionage,
finger,
just with a
vanished.
very unconventional
Poof.
method.
But
So
that's
all
not
the
how
proof
it
we
played
have
out,
boils
was
down
it?
to
It
a few
became clear
grainy
pretty
photos
fast this
from
wasn't
one
just about
unverified
finding
meeting back in
missile
'88.
silos.
No, almost right away, the
provenance, no
viewers
chain
weren't
of
just
custody.
describing,
And
you know,
that
submarine
lack of
pens
chain
or
of
radar
custody is
installations.
critical.
The data
In
started
real
getting
archaeology,
weird.
verifying
Weird
the
how?
object's material,
Well, that was the big
its
turning
age,
point, really.
that's
The
priority
viewers started
one.
reporting
Of course.
things that,
The fact
based
that
on
this
our
thing
normal understanding
supposedly
of physics and
appeared
reality, just
and then
shouldn't
disappeared,
exist.
Things that shouldn't
precisely
exist.
when
Okay,
scientific
now we're
testing
getting
was
somewhere.
impossible.
Yeah, the
Well, that's the
information they
biggest
were
red
bringing
flag. It
back
puts
was
all the
pushing
weight onto
way
just
past
those
the
photos.
boundaries
Okay,
of
let's
what
talk
anyone
about those photos
expected.
then, because they
It
are
fundamentally
why the
challenged
story
what the
has
program
legs,
was even
right?
supposed to
They
be
are
doing.
pretty compelling,
interesting,
tell
kind
me
of
about these
eerie,
viewers.
actually.
They weren't
They
just
are. You
random
see this
people off the
dark,
street, right?
desiccated digit,
Yeah.
Many
and
had
right next
military
to it, there's a
That's
ruler
right,
for
often
scale.
military personnel.
Sometimes an old
And they
banknote or
went through this
newspaper
really
clipping, too.
specific,
The details look
structured training,
tangible, but still ambiguous
controlled
somehow.
protocols
Exactly.
was the term.
Visually
like coordinate
powerful,
remote
but
viewing or
scientifically
CRV.
vague.
CRV. Okay.
And this is
so
where
it
when you
wasn't
apply
just
basic
like
science,
closing
the
your
narrative
eyes and
just
hoping
hits a
for the
brick
best.
wall.
No,
You mean
no,
connecting
very
the finger
systematic.
size to the body
They might
size?
be given just a
Precisely.
set
That
of geographic
15-inch finger
coordinates or
implies a
maybe a
body size
random
that
number
runs into
linked
serious
to a target.
biological problems.
Then they'd go through
Because
these
you can't
stages,
just
sort of
scale a
drilling
human
down,
up
describing
indefinitely.
sensory
There are
details,
physical limits,
sketching
right?
impressions,
Biology gets in the way.
You've
trying
hit on
to
it. It's
build
the
a
square
picture
cube
of a
law.
target
It's
they
a
knew
fundamental
nothing about
principle.
consciously.
As you increase size,
Often something hidden
Let me see if I
miles
remember
away, maybe
this.
even sealed in an
Volume and
envelope
mass
right there in the
increased
room.
by the
and did it
cube.
work?
But strength,
Well,
like
the early
bone
results were
cross-section,
apparently
only increases by the square.
intriguing.
That's exactly
Impressive,
it. So
maybe,
double
but
the
small
height.
scale.
You get 8 times the
sketches
weight,
that looked
but only 4
surprisingly
times
like
the
a
bone
Soviet
strength to support
factory.
it.
So a
Details about a
15-foot-tall
hidden
person
bunker
would
that
be
later matched spy
incredibly
photos.
heavy for their own skeleton.
Enough to keep the funding
Crushing
flowing,
weight.
definitely.
Okay, so it had some legs.
stress.
Yeah.
But
Not
then,
to
like
mention
you
the
said,
cardiovascular
things took a
system.
turn.
Imagine
A sharp
the
turn,
heart
yeah,
needed
because
to
it's
pump
one thing
blood
to
all the
sketch a
way up
building
to a
you
brain
shouldn't
that
know
high.
about.
And
Something
the
else
fossil
entirely when you're training
Any
military
giant
viewers
humans
start
Nothing even
reporting
close.
experiences
We
that
know
just
about Gigantopithecus.
flat out defy
a
the
huge
material
ape,
world
maybe
as we
10
know
feet
it.
tall.
But that's
What
not a
kind of
human.
things?
And certainly not
Well,
15 or 16
get
feet.
this. Some
There's zero
viewers started
fossil evidence
reporting
for a proportionate
energy
humanoid
beings.
skeleton
Energy
of that
beings.
size.
Yeah. Not
Biology
people,
just
not
argues
animals,
strongly
just
against it being
conscious
And
energy
yet,
forms
the
that were
easiest way
apparently
to
watching them
confirm or
while they were
deny
doing
a
their
DNA
remote
test
viewing.
Watching
on
the
finger
viewers,
itself
okay,
is
that's creepy.
impossible
Right.
because the
Others
artifact is
claimed
gone.
they weren't just moving
Conveniently
across
gone,
space,
critics
but
would say.
across time.
Which leads them to
Getting
argue it's likely
glimpses
a
of
hoax.
ancient
Maybe
history or
cleverly
even
crafted
future
from
events.
animal
Oh,
bones, some
time
resin,
travel.
something like that.
Or
That's
maybe
what
an
they're
old
reporting.
fabrication.
There's one really
Hoaxes
famous
aren't exactly
or
new in
infamous
archaeology, are they?
account.
Not at all.
A viewer
Creating fakes,
insisted they saw
especially
the
where
Egyptian
artifacts
pyramids
command
being
interest
built,
or money,
but not
has
by
a long
Egyptians.
history.
By,
Think about the
quote,
Cardiff giant in
tall,
19th century
luminous
America.
That was a big stone
Luminous
guy they
entities
found.
building the
carved
pyramids.
gypsum.
I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds
Buried,
like something
then
from a
discovered.
fringe
It caused a
documentary.
sensation.
Exactly, except
But
these were
psychology is
reports
similar.
coming from within
Present
a
something
classified
stunning, something
military
physical,
intelligence
but make it
program. That's what makes you
conveniently
stop and
impossible to
think.
verify
Yeah,
scientifically.
definitely.
Any
It
other
creates a
example?
perfect
Oh
loop
yeah,
for belief
another
in
one just as
conspiracy.
strange.
And that
A
loop
viewer
feeds
claimed
right
they
into the
found
next
hidden
layer,
spacecraft
the mythology
under the ice
connection.
in Antarctica.
People who believe in the finger
Hidden
say the evidence is
spacecraft.
thin
Like
because someone is
UFOs.
suppressing
It
it.
Right.
seems
This
to
is
be
where
the
we shift
implication.
from the physical
And
object,
guarded,
or lack
apparently,
thereof, to
by
the
some
power
kind
of
of
the narrative. That
consciousness
giant
that
figure
resisted
claim immediately
intrusion,
hooks into
like a
these
psychic guard
ancient
dog,
universal
but
myths
not a
about
dog.
giants.
Okay, wow.
You mean like the
So these
Nephilim in
reports,
Genesis?
were they just ignored,
Exactly.
filed away as crazy.
The Nephilim,
Well,
the
officially,
Anakim
a lot
and
of the
Canaan,
stuff was probably
described as
downplayed or
huge,
buried,
intimidating
classified deep.
figures.
But
You've got
inside
the
the
Yetner
project,
and Norse myths,
the whispers started.
massive
The idea
builders
took
and
hold that maybe
Sumerian and
remote
Greek
viewing
legends.
wasn't just about
It's a
spying on the
global
Soviets
theme.
anymore.
So the finger
Maybe-
becomes,
Maybe
for
it was about making
believers,
contact.
the
And this is where it
physical
gets even
proof.
stranger, right?
The
connection
smoking
or
gun
the
that
apparent
turns
connection
those old
to
stories from metaphor
occult practices.
into literal history.
Yes, that's another
That's the
layer to
allure.
this whole thing
They
that's just
argue these
fascinating.
myths aren't just stories,
People
they're
within the
fragmented
program
memories of
apparently
actual
started
enormous
noticing these
beings who lived
disturbing
alongside
parallels
early humans.
between
And they
the
connect
remote
these
viewing
giants
techniques
to
they were developing and refining,
pyramids.
and
Even though
practices
Spurri didn't claim
found
he found
in
it
really
The
old
connection gets made very
occult
quickly by
traditions.
theorists.
Occult
If
traditions.
giants
like
existed, maybe they were the
Uh,
builders of
methods
megalithic
described
sites that
in
baffled us. The
esoteric
pyramids,
orders.
Baalbek
Groups
and
like
Lebanon,
the Hermetic
even
Order
parts
of the Golden
Stonehenge.
Dawn,
Sites
or
with
the
impossibly huge
Rosicrucians.
stones.
The only
Okay.
giants
They were
could
looking
move
at
them. Or maybe
rituals
they
for
had lost
astral
technology.
projection,
That's the
achieving
argument,
trance
which naturally
states,
leads to the
intense
cover-up idea.
visualization
If giants were real,
exercises,
who's hiding the
whole
evidence
idea
and
of
why?
separating
who's
your
the alleged
consciousness
villain in
from
this
your
story?
physical body?
Primarily. Wait, so the technique
According to these
Sunstreak was
sources,
teaching
it's
its
the Egyptian
military
authorities.
viewers.
Seem to
Specifically,
directly
the organization
mirror
formerly
these
known as
ancient
the Supreme
mystical
Council of
practices. It's
Antiquities,
quite striking
or
when you put them
SEA.
side by side.
Now,
So
the
the question
Ministry of
becomes,
Tourism and Antiquities
was
They're
the
the
Pentagon,
gatekeepers
was the
of
DIA
all official Egyptian
inadvertently
archaeology.
stumbling
Right,
onto
they control
or maybe
access and define the
rediscovering
narrative.
Some kind of
Precisely.
ancient
So the
technique,
allegation is that
something
the SEA
mystics and secret
may
societies
be
have
working
been
with
using for
Western
centuries.
academic
That's the
institutions.
implication, yeah. Was this military
actively
intelligence
suppresses
program
finds that
actually
don't
an
fit the
unwitting or
standard
maybe
model.
witting occult
Like the
experiment?
finger.
Or
That's a
those rumors of
pretty
giant
mind-bending thought.
skeletons found
And
in
it
hidden
didn't stop
chambers
there,
the
did it?
radar
The
supposedly
experiences
picks
got
up under
darker.
Giza?
They did.
Exactly.
Some
Anything
viewers
that
started
disrupts the
reporting
comfortable
encounters with
linear story
actively
of
hostile
civilization,
presences.
while slowly
Hostile?
evolving from
How?
simple
They
beginnings.
describe
Because if
you know,
giants
entering
were
a
real
location
and maybe
mentally
built the
projecting their
pyramids,
consciousness
then
there,
our whole
only to be
understanding of the
confronted,
past gets
not
thrown
by
out.
human guards,
History needs
but
a
by
rewrite.
what they
It
described as
completely shatters the
shadowy
accepted
entities,
timeline.
things that seemed
It introduces this
fully
idea
aware
of
of
a
their
lost,
psychic
maybe
intrusion
superior,
and
definitely
actively tried
enormous
to block
civilization
them or
that
push
just
them
doesn't
out.
fit our current framework.
Yeah.
Like
And once you
psychic
open that
guards.
door,
Essentially,
well,
yes.
it's not a
which
huge
raises a
leap to the
really
really extreme
profound and
Ah,
frankly
okay.
unsettling
This is where it gets into
possibility.
ancient
Which
aliens
is,
territory,
Well,
isn't
if the
it?
human
cosmic
mind can actually travel outside
The
the
giant
body.
finger stops
Maybe,
being just
maybe
from a
those
big
non-physical
human and
realms
starts
aren't
belonging to
empty. Maybe
something
other
else.
intelligences already
Alien
live
human
there.
And maybe they
hybrids.
don't
That's one
appreciate
popular
visitors.
branch of the theory.
Exactly.
Blending the
Entities
giant
that
finger
really
evidence
didn't
with the
want
ancient
people
astronaut
like the
framework.
Sunstreak viewers
If
poking
giants
around. It makes
existed,
you wonder,
the question becomes,
was
where did they
Sunstreak
come from?
opening doors
And the
that had been
answer is
deliberately shut
off-world.
for a very long time?
Or
for
a good reason.
engineered by
Okay, so if they were
ETs?
opening
That's
doors,
the claim. They were maybe
what exactly
a
did
hybrid
they
race,
find on the other
or
side?
a specially created
Because some
worker
of the
or
most
priestly
sensational
caste,
claims
serving
are about,
extraterrestrial visitors who were the real
aliens.
architects.
And suddenly the
Extraterrestrial.
pyramids aren't just
Absolutely.
tombs
This is
anymore.
where the
No,
story
now
really
they're
goes in
cosmic
high
power
gear.
plants,
We actually have
navigation beacons,
declassified
maybe even
documents,
stargates.
fragments,
And
hints
the
really that
giants for the
suggest
workforce,
some
or the
remote viewing
managers
sessions were
serving the
specifically
ETs.
targeting
It ties everything
Mars.
together
Mars,
into one grand
like
alternative
the planet
narrative.
Mars.
It's
The
a very
planet Mars.
comprehensive explanation.
There's
we
one
have to admit.
particularly
It is.
famous
And what
session,
keeps
often
this whole belief
cited,
system
where a
going
viewer gave
strong
this
is
incredibly
that
detailed
core idea.
description.
They
forbidden
claimed
discovery.
they were observing
The
Mars
archetype is
millions of
Once
years
something
ago.
is labeled
Millions.
suppressed,
And they
the lack of
described
evidence
seeing these
becomes
tall
proof of the
beings
suppression.
sheltering
Pretty
inside
much.
massive pyramidal
Believers don't
structures.
necessarily
Pyramids on
need more
Mars.
proof
Pyramids
of
on
the
Mars, as
artifact.
their planet
They
was
look for more
dying
proof of
around
the
them.
cover-up.
And
A
that single
civilization
image, the
facing
finger, the
extinction.
ruler,
Wow,
it's perfect
okay.
for the internet
That's
age,
quite a
isn't
claim.
It
It
is,
is, and
viral,
it wasn't just
stripped of
Mars.
all
Other
context.
sessions
Absolutely,
allegedly
it pops up
targeted
everywhere
well-known
online,
UFO
instantly
hotspots and crash
validating
sites
anyone
on Earth,
predisposed to
including
believe that
Roswell.
they,
Roswell had
the
to be
authorities,
accurate.
are hiding
And
the truth.
viewers
Does
reportedly
the
described
SCA
seeing
or
non-human
whatever they're called
bodies,
now
alien
ever comment
artifacts,
on
all
things
hidden
like
away
this?
Rarely,
deep inside
if
classified
ever,
government
on
facilities.
specific fringe
So not just
claims
seeing
like the
things
finger.
far away,
But that
seeing
official
things
silence,
the government was
while
actively
understandable
hiding.
perhaps
That's
from their
the claim.
perspective, they
It
can't chase
suggests
down
the
every
viewers
rumor,
weren't just passive
actually
observers.
fuels the
They were
conspiracy narrative.
potentially
Their
uncovering
silence is
evidence
interpreted
of
as
an
proof
alien
they're hiding
presence that was
something.
being
It leaves a
actively
vacuum that
concealed.
speculation
there's
rushes
Wright
to
Patterson
fill.
Air Force
It
Base,
reinforces
right?
the idea
Always
of them
comes up
as
in these
secretive
stories.
gatekeepers.
Right,
So
Patterson.
after digging
Another
into the
chilling
origins,
account
the
involved
shaky
a viewer who
science,
claimed
the
they
huge mythological
entered
framework
a
built
hidden
around
chamber
this.
deep underground.
What
there.
are we left
What do they
with?
see?
What should
Containers
someone listening
holding
make of this?
biological
Well, we have to weigh the
specimens that were
possibilities,
completely
honestly.
unlike anything
Is the
known on
giant
Earth?
finger
Alien
a
bodies,
deliberate
basically.
hoax?
That's the strong
Maybe a
implication.
misunderstanding of
And
something
another
else?
viewer, possibly
An
targeting the
unverified
same
curio,
location or a
perhaps
similar
made long
one,
ago for some
claimed they
ritual
witnessed
purpose,
some kind
or even
of
faked
psychic
recently for
network.
attention or money.
Something
Or
connecting
is it
human minds
genuinely
to
a piece of
well,
suppressed
something
evidence?
else, something
A clue
beyond our
pointing
world,
to a
out
radically
among the
different
stars.
human
a
past
psychic network
involving
connecting us
giants.
to aliens.
It's hard
That
to
was
say
the report.
definitively
So you
without
look
the
at all these
object
accounts
itself.
together: Mars,
But what's
Roswell, Wright
undeniable
Patterson's
is the
psychic
power of the
networks.
idea.
It paints a
It's
very
simple.
different picture
It
than
taps
just
into
spying on
something
the
deep,
Soviets.
doesn't it?
Completely
This hunger
different.
we
If
seem
you
to
take
have
these
for
reports
bigger,
at face
weirder,
value,
more
even just
mysterious
partially,
human story
the
than one in
implication
the
is
standard
huge.
history books.
Project
Absolutely.
Sunstreak
A desire
might
for
have
history
started
to be
as
more
espionage,
dramatic,
but
maybe
it
even
seems to
magical.
have pivoted.
That's
It
why
became
critical
about
thinking is so
preparing
vital
for
here. When you see
contact
something
with
visually
non-human
striking like those photos, but
Or
the
maybe
scientific
more
backing
cynically,
just isn't
about
there.
making sure
You
that
have to check your own
contact
biases.
remained a
See if it's
secret,
just confirming
kept
a story
far
you wanna
away from the
believe.
public
Precisely.
eye.
The
But
real
the
story
theories
of the
don't
giant
even stop
Egyptian
at
finger
just
might not be
ETs from
about
other
its
planets,
physical
do they?
size,
Some people
but about
take it
the
even
immense
further.
power of
That's
belief,
right.
and
There's a
how
whole other
single,
branch of theory
unverified image
suggesting
can become the
Sunstreak wasn't
cornerstone
just
for
encountering
an entire
extraterrestrials, but
alternative view of
potentially
civilization.
interdimensional
It makes you think about
beings.
history
Interdimensional,
itself.
like decades.
We
right.
carve the
The US
official
government
story
line
like a
was
headstone,
basically
marking what we know.
supernatural
But then
stuff,
sometimes
psychic powers,
a
telepathy,
clue like
seeing
this
things
alleged
far
finger
away with your
seems
mind.
to stick out from the
Pure
dust,
fantasy,
pointing
that's what
away
they
from
told
that
everyone.
headstone.
Yeah, that was the public
hinting at a
face.
past that was
Complete
maybe
skepticism.
rewritten
But
or deliberately
while
buried
that was the
deep,
official
whether it's
story,
just a relic of our
behind closed
imagination
doors,
or a trace
something,
of something truly enormous
something
and
much
ancient.
stranger was
It
apparently
definitely keeps
going
us
on.
wondering about the lost
Deep
chapters.
inside the